Under the hush of a snow-heavy sky, Rowan Hale trudged across his land, boots sinking deep into drifts that swallowed sound. His breath steamed in the cold, mingling with the smoke curling from the cabin chimney. The barn loomed ahead, dark against the white, its roof bowed under the weight of winter's burden. He pushed the door open with a hand calloused from rope and reins, and the lantern light spilled across the hay. There, curled small against the bales, a figure slept, a woman, half covered in threadbare blankets, her black hair unruly with damp curls clinging to her face. For a long moment he stood still, unsure if he had stumbled into dream or trespass. Then, in a voice low enough that only the horses could have heard, he murmured words he had never spoken to anyone, "From now on, you're mine." The whisper startled him, as though it had not come from his own lips. He had no claim over her, no right to such words, yet something about her presence stirred in him the ache of years unspoken. She shifted in her sleep, breath clouding the frosty air, and Rowan found his chest tightening with a strange, protective warmth. Curiosity flickered. Who was she, and why had the storm carried her to his barn? Instead of waking her, he draped his greatcoat across her shoulders and backed away, leaving her with the horses as if she belonged more to their company than his. Morning light crept pale and brittle through the barn's crack. The woman woke with a start, startled eyes widening at the sight of a stranger towering in the doorway. Rowan's broad frame blocked the cold wind, his hat brim shadowing his features. Fear lanced through her, though she tried to hide it, gathering the coat close. He expected her to bolt like a frightened doe, yet she only squared her shoulders, wary but unmoving. Rowan spoke softly, as though addressing a spooked colt. "You're safe here. Hungry?" The offer unsettled her more than anger would have. She had known rejection, cruelty, suspicion, but never unexpected kindness. He left food on a stool and stepped away, as though to prove his intentions were not a trap. By noon, whispers traveled through town faster than smoke from a chimney. A widow from the Willowbird clan was spotted at Rowan Hale's barn, and tongues wagged with poisonous certainty. Sheriff Amos rode out, his breath thick in the air. "Rowan," he warned, leaning in his saddle, "be careful who you take in. This land remembers, and people don't forgive what they think they see." Rowan's jaw set, though he said nothing. He knew the cost of stepping outside the invisible lines drawn by society. Yet when he returned to the barn that evening, watching her stroke the muzzle of his best mare with hands both careful and competent, he felt the weight of silence heavier than any sheriff's warning. She hadn't fled, though she could have. She stayed, tending to chores unasked, singing soft songs to the horses when she thought herself unwatched. Each small act threaded her into the rhythm of the place, and Rowan found himself pausing longer each night, listening at the threshold. Still, the judgment of others clung like burrs. In the general store, Mabel Crow sneered, her voice sharp as a blade. "You're a man of means, Hale. Don't squander it on someone who'll never belong." Rowan set his coins down with a heavy hand, eyes steady. "She belongs where I say." The room fell silent, his words ringing like hammer on steel. Later, when Taya overheard, shame bloomed in her chest. Was she a burden to a man who had all he needed? That night, she gathered her few belongings, intending to slip away under the cloak of snow. But Rowan found her in the barn, satchel clutched to her chest, fear trembling in her hands. He did not grab her arm or block the door. He only said, with a voice weighted by years of emptiness, "I've lost enough in silence. Don't leave me to it again." The words hung between them, raw and human. For the first time, she saw not a giant of wealth and strength, but a man hollowed by loneliness, reaching without pride. Storms came harder as the weeks passed. One night, lightning carved across the plains, thunder rolling like drums of war. Rowan urged her into the cabin, but she resisted until the wind drove needles of snow through the barn boards. She entered at last, small against the firelight, while Rowan busied himself with the stew. She ate slowly, each spoonful a war between hunger and dignity. Words did not come easily between them, silence carried more truth. When he asked about her past, she looked only at the flames, voice caught in her throat. Still, he left a shawl on the chair, bread by the door, and never demanded thanks. In those quiet exchanges, a bond wove itself, unspoken but firm. Curiosity grew sharper. What if this fragile thread could bear the weight of love? But the town was not blind. Sheriff Amos, stern with loyalty to order, warned Rowan that bringing her into the open would divide people. Yet Rowan refused to keep her in shadows. On a Sunday morning, beneath falling snow, he walked with her at his side into the church. Every head turned, whispers rasped like dry grass, and Mabel Crow coughed pointedly in disdain. Rowan's posture never bent. He sat, hat in his lap, shoulders unyielding, and when his hand brushed Taya's for the briefest second, the gesture carried more strength than any sermon. For Taya, it was the first moment she felt seen as more than a burden or an outcast. She blinked back tears, the sanctuary's silence heavier than judgment. When they left, Amos told Rowan, "You've chosen your side." Rowan answered, "It was never a choice." His words rang like a vow. Back at the ranch, with snow heaping against the windows, Rowan spoke plainly. "Stay. Be mine in name as you are in heart." He did not bend to one knee, nor weave pretty promises. He offered her a place that would not vanish, a claim that did not smother but steadied. She hesitated, fear of loss clawing at her chest, the memory of burying one husband not yet cold in her soul. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw not possession but a man willing to stand against the world for her presence alone. Still, the choice lingered unanswered, as though the snow itself waited to hear her reply. The blizzard struck without mercy. Winds howled, snow stacked against the barn until beams groaned with strain. Horses panicked, eyes rolling white. Rowan ran into the storm, coat whipping like a sail, shouting against the wind. Taya followed despite his command to stay inside, her skirts heavy with snow, her curls plastered to her face. Together they slashed ropes, dragged the animals to safety, breath burning in their lungs. Then came the crack, the terrible surrender of timber. The roof buckled. Rowan threw his body over hers, shielding her as the barn collapsed, snow and wood thundering down. The world went still beneath the storm's roar, only their breath and the frantic beat of survival in their chests. Pinned beneath his strength and warmth, she whispered through trembling lips, "I am yours." Not because he claimed her, but because she chose him. Rowan laughed, a sound raw with relief and wonder, and held her closer as the storm screamed above. When spring loosened winter's grip, the barn was rebuilt. But something deeper had been mended too. Rowan and Taya stood side by side, their bond tested, tempered, unspoken yet stronger than any iron. They wed quietly, a preacher's words soft in the breeze, no audience save the wide sky and the meadow just greening with life. Their vows were not shouted, but lived, in the way his hand always sought hers, and hers found his without hesitation. And so, the story settles into memory. For in this world, love does not thunder down with banners or song. It settles like snow, soft, relentless, covering loneliness and shame alike. Remember this, you who listen. What begins in whispers may end in vows, and the hearts we find in barns, in storms, in silence, may be the very ones that save us.